What is the biggest misconception either about EuroLeague or international basketball? He is one of the voices of EuroLeague, and that's a league that we've talked about before in the past, and certainly glad to get into it. And he's also had the fortunate opportunity to call games during the Paris Olympics for men's and women's basketball for Warner Brothers Discovery. We have the fortunate pleasure in welcoming Liam Canny onto Hoopsology. Welcome, Liam.
Justin, thank you so much for having me. Hello from just south of London. I'm glad we were able to make the times work. So thank you so much for having me as a guest on the Hoopsology podcast.
Yeah, thanks for coming on to the show. Really appreciate it. We have a tradition here before we can delve into everything else. Our show, we of course talk about the mainstream topics, but we want to delve into basketball culture and what makes the game of basketball so unique. So, with this first question, you can take it any way you want. What is your favorite or first basketball memory?
Oh, I tell you what, Justin, you're going to love this. So I grew up north of Boston, just outside the city in New Hampshire, about 45 minutes from the city. And I was in the 8th grade when the local high school had a Christmas tournament. And I was able to watch Patrick Ewing play in high school. Cambridge Ridge and Latin came up to Nashua, New Hampshire to play in a Christmas tournament. And they played in the finals against a school from Worcester, Massachusetts. There was a player called Dwayne McClain who played for Holy Name. This was in 1980 or 81. 4 years later, both Patrick Ewing and Dwayne McClain were in the NCAA finals when the Villanova team beat Georgetown. Villanova shot like 70% in the first half to hang in with a hugely talented Georgetown team, including Ewing. So I saw these two players when they were seniors in high school. That is where my love of basketball probably started.
So you have a wealth of basketball knowledge. So I think it's appropriate just to ask you this question. It might be unfair to ask you this question because it's kind of all encompassing, but I think with your experience, I think you have a very unique perspective. Just witnessing just Patrick Ewing's origins to just your knowledge of just the NBA and then also all your international experience. Where do you kind of see the through line just in terms of just the game of basketball overall? Because I think when I was growing up, in my opinion, basketball was pretty much, from an American point of view, just a United States sport mostly, with just a lot of the stars. And then I think as time has gone on, that the game has blown up internationally to the point to where I think calling it just America's game is pretty poor. Referencing it's the world's game in terms of how much it's taken all over the world. And I'm just wondering, from your eyes, and I've talked about this with my co-host previously, kind of where do you see the health of just the game of basketball overall? Do you think it's healthy? Do you think there's some pain points happening, not only in America but all over the world that you're witnessing? Or do you think the sport of basketball is really in a great place heading into 2025?
Yeah, good question. I think the game of basketball is very, very healthy. As you quite rightly say, it's becoming a global game. So, Justin, I'm old enough to remember, for the Olympics, obviously we've just come through the Paris Olympics when, we would send collegians. We would send, remember, U.S. collegians to represent the U.S. in the Olympics, and they would kind of be thrown together just, in the summer, and then they'd go off and they'd play in the Olympics and then win comfortably. And then there was the dream team won the Barcelona Olympics in '92 when, the rest of the world kind of said, look, you can't send your youngsters anymore. We're too good. And so that, as you probably remember, the Lithuanians had Sabonis and Marciulionis. Sabonis was past his prime. And then the Yugoslavs, obviously now the Serbians and the Croatians, had that great generation with Petrovic and Divac. And for me, that's kind of the waypoint, 92, when the rest of the world said, listen, you're going to have to send your best. Obviously, Dream Team 1 kind of coasted those Olympics. And you'll love this. So Chuck Daly, who was the coach of Dream Team 1, never took a timeout in the Barcelona games.
Wow.
And Steve Kerr had to take a timeout within the first 3 or 4 minutes in game 1 against Serbia. So that just shows you how much the game has come along and how global it is now.
You mentioned the Paris Olympics. I just want to get your opinion on that overall experience, men's and women's. we had the fortunate pleasure of talking to Noah Eagle, and he said that the men's path to gold had a lot of different hurdles, and we witnessed that in terms of just the different teams that proved to be a tough challenge: Serbia, Germany, France. But with the women, they relatively coasted until the gold medal game, and it was very close. And they barely made it out. And so, what was just your impressions of just both the men's and women's team? Just you calling all those games, just your overall impressions of just that experience.
Yeah, the women, you're right, Justin. Coming into the Olympics, the women were even more dominant than the men. But the women, when they got to the Belgians, played them quite close
Yeah.
in the pool game, and then obviously the French pushed them right to the limit in the finals. And I think that the U.S. ladies team will reflect now on the talent they left behind. Right, there was some talent, Caitlin Clark being obvious, and Enrique Ogunbowale. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm probably stumbling on her name. Maybe they should have, those two younger players perhaps should have been in the U.S. team and made them stronger. Asia Wilson and Brianna Stewart were head and shoulders, for my money, the two best players in the tournament. But the depth of the U.S. probably not as strong as they might have been, and the French pushed them. It should be said that the French had a naturalized American. Gabby Williams was a fantastic player for France, and I think she's from your part of the world originally. I think she's
Oh,
from
really?
the Southwest originally.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so she had a French mother, so she naturalized to play for France. Um, and then the men, what a stunning final that was, and the semi was probably even better, right? So Steph Curry finally had an outstanding breakout game. I think he had 36 points in the semi, which was the difference. And then again, he had a stunning performance in the final. So you wonder in the U.S. side, who's the next generation coming through? Ant Edwards is a prodigious talent. I'm a little biased. I'm a Celtics fan, so you've got Jason Tatum, and then I'm a fan too of the Celtics. So there might be some Celtics players who are going to get themselves a position on the next U.S. team.
What did you make of all the controversy, or were you even aware of just all this the chatter on social media about Jason Tatum not getting a playing time, some DNPs, not being utilized? Like there's rumors of Steve Kerr having a grudge against him. That I just found that ridiculous. Is that unfounded? Or do you think there's something to it, just in terms of this
Yeah,
whole situation?
that's another good question. I think it's unfounded, and you know, the big difference I think fans should understand is the international game is just 40 minutes as opposed to 48. And so Steve Kerr, as I understand it, was quite upfront with players when he said there'd be one or two on a given night to say, look, it's going to be a DNP for you. I just can't get 12 players into 40 minutes. I think we should commend Tatum because he certainly carried on as a true professional and didn't unsettle the team chemistry. And Kerr himself said, I'm paraphrasing, I must be an idiot because I'm leaving out Jason Tatum. He's an NBA champion out of my 12. So it was a difficult decision for Kerr, but ultimately I think you have to commend him because he was able to get the U.S. through undefeated, and then they won the gold. Remember, in the Olympics in 2020 in Tokyo, although it was played in 2021, the U.S. lost their first pool game against France with Coach Pop. Then they were able to continue and win against France in the finals, whereas Steve Kerr's team went through undefeated.
So my question to you, and I've talked about this with several guests. In my experience, I did not enjoy the NBA playoffs. I thought it was a terrible viewing experience as a fan. But when watching the Olympics, I realized how much I really loved the game of basketball. Just watching just all these, not only just Team USA, but just the other teams involved in that tournament and the rule set, like you were saying, being 40 minutes. Is there anything, some credence to changing the rule set of not only the NBA but the college game overall to an international rule set in the future? Do you think that's best for just the game in America overall? Because I just think it just seems so smooth. I love the physical play. It just seemed like the games were just a better product compared to what we see not only in the NBA but college as well.
Yeah, obviously I'm slightly biased because I cover the EuroLeague, and so if any viewers ever want to watch EuroLeague games, it is a beautiful brand of basketball because the ball gets cycled through 3, 4, 5 sets of hands, and it doesn't stick. And a lot of times in an NBA game, the ball will stick with your marquee star.
Yeah.
It stops moving, and then it's a lot of one-on-one breaking people down in the dribble. And so the game lacks the kind of certainly ball movement and I would say the beauty of the international game. By contrast, so in the EuroLeague, your top scorer who wins the Scorers Award every year will average 18, 19 points a game. Whereas your top scorers in the NBA are going to be, I think, approaching 30 points per game, right, as an average. So it just shows you how much the ball gets shared. And then there's no defensive 3 seconds rule in international basketball. So as such, there's still low post play. You get players who play with their back to the basket, and you can throw it in the low post. Whereas the NBA game now is all about spreading the floor and, players stepping away from the basket. And it's that old adage, a 3 are in the key. So I'm just an advocate of, I'm a little older than maybe some of your viewers. I'm an advocate of the ball moving and ball reversals and sharing the basketball, making the ball move.
How much has the 3-point shot in particular affected the international game? Because I know there's a lot of just controversy just in terms of how much the 3-point shot dominates just the American game overall, just in terms of, like you're saying, even big men using the 3-point shot as their primary weapon as opposed to going into the post. Has that permeated EuroLeague or the international game a lot more, or is there like a clear, distinct difference there?
Yeah, for sure. You have to be able to shoot the basketball at the top level in Europe and able to get on the floor. And of course, the 3-point line is a little closer than it is in the NBA. So it's a big feature of the game. But still, the ball goes inside. You can make a living as a post player on the continent of Europe. If you could be a good post target inside, that's still an option, still a feature for European teams.
So you mentioned Caitlin Clark earlier, and just on the women's Team USA side. I want to ask you, a lot of the excuses that we heard is that Caitlin Clark didn't participate in some of the mini camps leading into it, but she has plenty of international experience. She is not foreign to how the international game works. Why do you think she was left off? Because it does seem really peculiar just citing her experience when you take a look at her resume. Her college game speaks for itself, but she has international experience, and yet that was somehow used against her when leaving her off the team when clearly she's a very unselfish player and can, I think, adapt to any situation.
That's a really good question. And I suppose the simple answer is when she became a pro, she started slowly, right? She didn't post the numbers that she was posting in college. And
Sure.
it took her a while to acclimatize to the professional game. But, as the Olympics drew closer, she was playing terrific in the WNBA. Then they took their break. you know, you have to tip your hat to Diana Taurasi and her body of work and the number of gold medals she's won. Perhaps, inside the camp, she added some leadership and some composure and some positivity. But in terms of what she brought to the floor, I think a younger player probably could have replaced her pretty easily. So it's a very good question. Was there loyalty shown by USA Basketball to the veterans who had achieved this great record for the women, as opposed to bringing in a youngster? That's all I could think of. The program just showing some loyalty to some good ambassadors of the game. And again, Enrique Ogunbowale also had a shout as well to get into. Remember when the WNBA All-Stars played against the U.S. Olympic team?
Yeah.
I think she dropped over 30 points
She did.
to
Yeah,
say, hey, why wasn't I selected?
exactly. Yeah. No, that was a true statement by her. A quick timeout from the interview to request a favor. If you love our interviews, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video to hear more interviews from the world of basketball, featuring journalists from SB Nation, ESPN, CBS Sports, and The Athletic. Now, back to the interview. While on the subject of women's basketball, and this might be an unfair question to ask, but what is your just analysis of just the women's game internationally, especially now that the WNBA has been pretty aggressive in just having their players stay in America just due to the Brittany Griner situation, and not and also unrivaled coming in 2025. This since there seems to be an effort just to not have a lot of American talent play overseas and just have them stay within North America. How do you think that's going to affect just the women's side of things internationally?
Yeah, I think it will make basketball globally poorer. If your viewers don't know, Justin, as you alluded to, you know, a lot of stars. You know, the WNBA is such a short season,
Yeah.
and it's in the summer, and then those players will go and sign with clubs in Europe for the sort of traditional basketball season. So we have to tip our hat to the American ladies who are really, you know, hustling to make a living as they go abroad and sign contracts. They have different experiences as well, whether they're playing in Turkey or Russia or wherever they're playing on the continent. So you have to tip your cap to them. And you know, the tragic situation that Griner faced obviously has kind of soured everyone's experience and made everyone a little bit more cautious. You know, let's hope when the global calms down with the war in the Ukraine and the war in the Middle East. You know, let's hope that. I think it's a good thing that American women are playing abroad. You know, personally for them, I'm biased because I've lived outside the U.S. for 25 years. I think for the player herself, it gives them a rich experience in their own personal lives. And for the game, it allows ideas to be exchanged, techniques to be exchanged, styles of play to be exchanged between the U.S. and the continent of Europe.
So I want to delve into EuroLeague. I think it's a league that I think is very underreported, just especially within just the basketball world among mainstream media outlets. And I just want to ask you, what stands out to me is just the fans and just their
Yeah,
passion. And
for
it's crazy
sure.
because I've been to a few Nuggets games, and the arena is packed, but you'll see the opposing team make more noise than the home team. And the Nuggets, they're not a terrible team. They've won the title, and they have a huge fan base here. But yet, on a regular basis, if you go to Nuggets games, opposing fans will make more noise than the home team. It's just really peculiar. But I would never think that would happen at a EuroLeague game. So can you kind of point to just the fan experience of that connection between the fans and their team, kind of compared to your traditional NBA experience?
Yeah, it's a good question, Justin. So just on that, you know, Kevin Durant and Mike James are good friends. So Mike James is now the all-time leading scorer in EuroLeague history. And so on a couple of occasions when Kevin Durant's season was over, or maybe if he had a break, he's come over and he's watched a EuroLeague game when Mike James was playing, and he himself commented about the fan experience. So there is such passion in places like Belgrade, in Kaunas, Lithuania, in Tel Aviv, in Athens. The fans are so passionate. You know, I've been into Athens a few times. I've been to Belgrade a few times, and you'll see, you know, signs that say, you know, no smoking, but fans will ignore that, and there'll be sometimes flares, unfortunately, flares in the arena. And so up above in the rafters, you'll see, you know, clouds of smoke up there,
Yeah.
and it's just it is an amazing experience. Bologna, Italy, also another place where, you know, I would say it's akin to, you know, in is it the Dog Pound where the
Oh yeah.
Browns fans
Hmm.
are? And they're taking their tops off no matter what the weather is. That sort of atmosphere. That's how rabid the fans are. Be very, very similar. In Kaunas, Lithuania, which isn't the capital, Vilnius is the capital, right? So Žalgiris play in the Žalgirio Arena in Kaunas, which seats 15,000 plus. They'll go through the pregame. The players will come out onto the floor and they'll honor the EuroLeague theme song. And then the arena goes silent, and 15,000 fans will sing a cappella the national anthem, and the hairs on your arm will just start to be electric. You know, it's just such a passionate atmosphere. So I would encourage any of your true basketball fans to put sort of sporting destinations of. It's obviously hard to get to Tel Aviv now, but Maccabi Tel Aviv, Belgrade, Kaunas, Lithuania, anywhere in Athens, whether it's Olympiacos or Panathinaikos. And I apologize to any clubs that I'm missing. Bologna is another one where these are just tremendous experiences.
So, what advice would you give to a first-time fan looking to kind of broaden their basketball palette and kind of get into EuroLeague? What are kind of key events, teams to maybe follow that would be, the most powerful for just a beginner EuroLeague fan, and just things to look out like on the EuroLeague calendar in terms of what would be friendlier to just a newer fan viewing EuroLeague for the first time?
Yeah, so you can watch the games on EuroLeague TV. It's a kind of internet platform, so fans can subscribe to it. Last season, ESPN3 also covered all of the EuroLeague games. I'm not sure if they're going to again this year. So certainly, wherever you are in the world, you plug in and watch live, or they'll have game replays on there as well, similar to any kind of internet platform. So there's the first foray. If you want to do a European vacation, as I mentioned, those arenas, the Žalgirio Arena in Lithuania and Kaunas is stunning, a new arena. The Waka. I'll tell you what, Justin. Here's one for you. The Waka, which Panathinaikos, who are the current reigning champions, own, they are putting together a brand new floor, which is going to be glass.
Oh wow!
So they're going to change the dimensions, and they're going to have all kinds of light shows on the floor, as the games are in progress. They can change the configuration. They can change the look of the floor. It's brand new. We're all waiting to see what it's going to look like. So that's certainly something to keep an eye out for. The Panathinaikos home arena, the Iwaka, and the league starts the 4th of October. Okay. is the first week of games.
So you mentioned Kevin Durant, and it seems like, and Giannis is mentioning EuroLeague as well. It seems like there's some synergy between just the NBA and EuroLeague. Do you see that strengthening in the next few years? Just with Adam Silver, he's very inventive just in terms of just adding new things to the American side of things, just in terms of the play-in tournament, continuing to work with just the All-Star game format. Do you think just with the NBA continuing this global push, that includes this more of a working relationship with EuroLeague, or do you think the two leagues will kind of remain kind of segmented and separated?
Yeah, it's a good question. As I understand it, Adam Silver has met with the EuroLeague executives before. I love what Adam Silver is doing with this in-season tournament. Mm-hmm. Most Europeans would know that as a kind of cup which runs in parallel to the regular season. I love that. I think it's fantastic. The EuroLeague has also adopted a play-in for its playoff format, just like the NBA has had now for a couple of seasons, I think. So last year was the first year the EuroLeague brought the play-in. So certainly my broadcasting journalists and I are hoping that the relationship will become tighter as the NBA and EuroLeague continue to work together.
One last question, and I'll let you go on this. What is the biggest misconception either about EuroLeague or international basketball that should be kind of cleared up just for either American fans or fans that might not be familiar with this international play that is totally not true and fabricated? Because I kind of saw some of those kind of flying around just in terms of kind of mainstream basketball podcasts that were just ridiculous. Is there anything that kind of frustrates you from this? Maybe just hearing things through the grapevine from just a mainstream media sports perspective that kind of drives you nuts sometimes, just in terms of misconceptions about the international game?
Yeah, I think, maybe that European players are a little bit softer than Americans. That certainly is a kind of common misperception because their skill sets are really quite good. Perhaps there's the athleticism is a little bit different, but you can talk to players who successfully made the jump. So Luka Doncic is the best example. Mm-hmm. So Doncic, as a teenager, won the MVP of the Final Four before he went across to the NBA. Bogdan Bogdanovic, who we saw in the Olympics playing for Serbia, who's had a number of years in the NBA with the Atlanta Hawks. He's a mainstay player. And then Vasilija Micic, who's trying to carve out a place for himself. So those three players have certainly successfully gone across. Interestingly, Nikola Jokic never played EuroLeague. He played in a club which was below the EuroLeague, and then he got drafted in the second round. So he never got exposed on the top European stage. And sadly, Sasha Vezenkov now is coming back. He couldn't really carve out a place for himself in the NBA. So he'll come back to Olympiacos, the club he played with 2 years ago. Yeah, I think that's probably the misperception, Justin, is that maybe European players don't have the drive, or they don't have the toughness, or the mental capacity to get through. An 82 game season is quite a long season.
Yeah.
But I would look to Doncic and Bogdanovic in particular as guys who have been successful in making the jump across.
No, totally agree. Liam, this has been a fantastic chat. Thank you very much for joining us. Can you please let the audience know where they can find you on social media, any other projects you're working on, and again, when should start watching out for EuroLeague as well?
Yeah, so I'll be on EuroLeague TV once the league starts. Social media, I'm a little bit older than some of the fans. I have a Facebook page, which is Liam Canny, basketball enthusiast, and we call it X now, not Twitter.
I switch back and forth at
I'm,
it.
I'm at Liam Canny, or at Liam Canny 27, so anyone can reach out to me. And it's been my pleasure to be your guest. You and I were chatting off air about our love for basketball, so I commend you on the work you're doing, and we're looking forward to both a good NBA season and an upcoming EuroLeague season. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, likewise. Much appreciated. Thank you very much.